Today's guest is Kasim Aslam, founder, author, and one of the top 50 digital marketing thought leaders here in the US. He's built 5 7 and 8-figure businesses and co-founded Driven Mastermind, the go-to community for high-performing entrepreneurs. In this episode, Kasim shares why the word scale might be holding you back, why you should overpay your next hire, and how to future-proof your business in the age of AI. Yes, I know that sounds like clickbait, but he gives some really good insights as far as where you should focus when your newsfeed is full of all of these, hey, look what AI can do type posts, and the way you should think about them. He also reveals his proven recipe for YouTube success, what every video needs, how to grow fast, and why every financial professional who doesn't want to become irrelevant should be creating content right now. Trust me, this one will challenge how you think about growth, how you think about your business, how you think about hiring, and definitely how you think about your content. You're listening to Podcasting for Financial Professionals, the show where smart business owners learn how to use podcasting as a serious growth tool, not just another marketing experiment. I'm Virginia Elder, podcast strategist and founder of Podcast Abundance. Since 2019, I've helped professionals stop guessing with their podcast and instead build a show that increases their authority, expands reach, and generates leads for their business. If you've ever wondered whether your podcast is actually generating leads or if you're just kind of publishing episodes and hoping for the best, you're not alone. And the issue usually isn't the content. It's that no one ever showed you what to track. Your podcast builds authority, warms leads, expands your reach, and creates opportunities long before someone ever hires you. But if you're only watching download numbers, you're missing most of the ROI. That's why I created the Podcast ROI Metrics Tracker, a free tool that helps you track 50 plus non-traditional metrics so you can finally see what your podcast is really doing for your business. Grab it now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker. All right, let's get into the episode. Kasim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show, Virginia. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So your profile interested me so much. And I think you can really help a lot of the financial professionals listening just simply because you talk about basically scaling yourself out of a job and replacing yourself as you're growing your practice and your business. And you have an amazing YouTube channel. We're going to get to that, folks. So we'll dive in there too. But what started you on this path of wanting to scale so much so and just like essentially replace yourself in your business?
Yeah, well, so not to be overly combative.
Yeah.
I hate the word scale.
Okay.
I actually own the domain name Scale is Bad. I think in a post-AI world, scale it's the canary in the coal mine for forced obsolescence. Anything that scales is now something that it's not that it's no longer valuable, but its value and availability have been divorced in a world that scales. And because these mechanisms can create literally anything that scales, and I hope this is helpful to the audience, not hurtful, anything that scales is no longer profitable. And so what I tell people to do is, and I think this is especially true for financial advisors, look for that which does not scale. Everything that doesn't scale, that's where the opportunity is. If it scales, AI can do it. And if AI can do it, you can no longer charge for it. There's going to be a year or two of arbitrage where you can get AI to do the work and sell it to the customer and kind of make your margin in between. But people are so savvy and AI is so accessible that I think that's a short fuse. And so what we really want to do is we want to grow ourselves out of our own business. And the way to do that is it's the worst way, the least accessible way, and the one that everybody hates. And it's called people. Because people don't scale. And so I have a very firm and very petulant belief that as an entrepreneur, and financial advisors are maybe among the most entrepreneurial people in the world, the only thing you really need to learn is talent. If and when you crack the talent code, because before you crack talent, all problems are your problems. So you start your business, you have your practice, and it's like, oh, I have a marketing problem, I have to learn marketing. I have an operations problem, I have to learn operations. I have a finance problem, I have to learn finance. Or you find the person that can solve that problem for you, and then you never have a problem again in your life other than playing Dan Sullivan's Who Not How. And I have a whole framework for doing that. It's not that I'm, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, but diagnosis without a blueprint or a framework, I think, is malpractice too. And so that's why I wrote my book. That's what I run around beating the drum about, is how to hire, manage, and utilize top talent.
Okay. So I want to give you a chance to show us your book, talk a little bit about it, and then also tell us kind of like why we need it, what's going on, where to get it, all that good stuff.
Yeah. I think I wrote the best book on hiring ever written, which I know is an arrogant thing to say. I'm allowed to say it though, because I didn't really write it, Virginia, as much as I stole it. So I spent 20 years of my life studying this topic. It's the only thing I'm world class at. And I just took everybody who's ever talked about it. I took all the best advice and I amalgamated it. So this is really the Frankenstein's monster of hiring, which means you should feel very comfortable customizing this to your own needs and your own purposes. It's 7 steps. You're 7 steps away from the greatest hire you've ever made in your entire life. You can have the book and all the resources for free if you go to thehireBook.com. And it's massively counterintuitive, because the way that we're taught to think about people, manage people, hire people, train people, up-level people, fire people, it's all wrong. And we know it's wrong because of how hard it is and how much difficulty people have encountered with it. So, my thesis is talent is the only value proposition you and I have access to. There's only 4 things a person or a company can sell: products, processes, programs, and people. That's it. Products are commodities. Programs are commodities. Processes are commoditizable. People are the only thing that are not a commodity. And when you're competing against trillion-dollar organizations, and as a financial advisor you are, you're never going to be able to compete along the level of analysis of commodity, because it's a bulk buy. They can buy more and pay less, and they have the economies of scale that benefit them that we don't have. Where you do get to compete is in your utilization of human resources, because you get to deploy people in the most unique ways that aren't scalable, that a big business they don't have access to, because they have to have cookie cutter SOPs, minimums, quotas, just the assembly line mentality that comes with large bureaucratic organizations. You as a small business, or even a medium-sized business, you don't have to do that. You get to hire miracles, and you get to treat them like miracles, and you get to deploy them like miracles, and then you get to benefit from the miracle that they are. And that's what I would encourage everybody to do, is lean into the human miracle. Because in an AI world, it's obvious to me. It's obvious that when the world zigs, you should zag. Everybody we're all steering into the crash that is AI. You know what I mean? Like it's so weird to me. My entire LinkedIn feed is nothing but people saying, look what AI can do, look what AI can do. And I'm like, no. Look at what AI can't do. That's where your opportunity is. Your opportunity is not in anything AI can do. You no longer have to do. That's no longer your profit center.
Yeah.
So I hope that's not too aggressive, but that's my belief.
No, I think you should stop worrying about being too aggressive. I love this. Okay, so I'm with you, and it aligns with what a lot of financial folks are going to recognize is like when the market dips and people are like, oh my God, and they want to pull their money out. And then we're just constantly advising them like, no, stay. Like, this is the thing. Like, you have to stay in when the market's low, right? Buy more.
Like dollar cost average.
Yeah, all that stuff. So take that advice that you give your clients constantly about their investments and about their money and apply it to AI, to your hiring, to your business, right? I love this. Okay, so many of us have hired, have fired, have gone through this struggle and hated every piece of it. There's very few people that I've talked to that are just like, oh, I love people. I love the challenge of working with someone who's mad at me. And then like at the end of the day, like we're best friends and shaking hands because we were able to come together and see eye to eye. That's an amazing level of patience and empathy and energy that you could put into that relationship. But with that, knowing that hiring can be hard, what do you think are like the top mistakes that we're making with our people?
First is mindset. I don't think that hiring or managing people is supposed to be hard. I think that what we do, people are afraid of competence. Entrepreneurs especially are afraid of competence. There's an inclination, especially early, to be the hero, to be the champion, to be the, you're at the top of the dominance hierarchy. And what that means, in order to continue to stay at the top of the dominance hierarchy, is you can only hire people that would be beneath you. And that's fine if you want to be at the top of the dominance hierarchy. But what that also means is now everybody who works for you is beneath you. So now you are the smartest person who works for you, which means all work flows to the competent. That's the rule. Work flows to the most competent. Yeah. The real key is being the least competent person that works for you, which is terrifying in the very beginning because everybody's fear is, oh, if I hire somebody who knows more than me, they're not going to listen to me, they're not going to be manageable, they're going to steal my clients, they're going to steal my business, they're going to walk away. And what they don't realize, there's a really amazing book by Douglas Brackman called Driven. I know Douglas, I got to sit next to him at an event, Dr. Brackman, I should call him. He's a brilliant, brilliant human. And the book talks about the epigenetic phenomena that is entrepreneurship. And what he says is 5% of humans have what it takes chemically to be an entrepreneur. And it's not a compliment, by the way, it's an accusation. You are broken. You are a broken human. There are valves that are open and screws that are loose because entrepreneurs experience the chemical cocktail of satiation, which is dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Dopamine and serotonin up and norepinephrine down, I think, if I have that right. We experience that chemical cocktail in the pursuit of a goal, which 95% of the world experiences it upon the accomplishment of a goal. So we are like batshit insane. And what's worse is when we accomplish the goal, we get depressed.
Yes.
We sit around in the back of a gasoline lighting matches. And now 95% of the world is normal and not like you. And realize that they want and need the job. And within the confines of the job, they want and need to be competent. So the framing needs to be, entrepreneurs in the very beginning hire manageable people because they want to be at the top of the dominance hierarchy. The problem with manageable people is manageable people need to be managed. So it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. You see the exact same thing in dating. You see men and women both will go hire somebody because they want to be the savior. They want to save this person. And then they spend the whole relationship saving the person and serving the person and then complaining about the fact that, oh gosh, you know what I mean? Like he just can't. And it's like, well, that's what you asked for, dude. Go find somebody that's equally yoked, right? So in an employment environment, find somebody that can run faster, harder, better, stronger than you can along the level of analysis upon which you're hiring them for. And that's the other thing that entrepreneurs don't understand. You as an entrepreneur are good at 50 things because that's what a hunter needs to be. Douglas Brackman calls it the hunter brain versus the farmer brain. The farmer, the employee, is good at 2 or 3. Now again, I'm not casting aspersions because the 50 things you're good at to a shallow depth. The 3 things they're good at, they are so much better than you that you don't even have the ability to begin to conceptualize the depth at which they can go because they can do things like focus, right? And pay attention. So these are just, entrepreneurs need to understand the employee mind. The way that I like to put it is, your job is to build the sandbox. Their job is to build the sandcastle. Leave the castle alone. Their job is to do the intricacies, the important pieces. And if you're hiring hyper-competent people, and this is the best part of life, I own 17 businesses. I've built 6 multi-million-dollar businesses. I've had 3 exits. And I promise you, I'm the dumbest person you're going to interview all day. I am so much more successful than I deserve to be because the only thing I do is I find people smarter than me in Virginia. I get out of their way. I don't manage people. I don't hire people that need to be managed. I have a 3-strike rule. And the third, it's actually really a 2-strike rule. First time you make a mistake, my fault. Hey, I clearly did not share with you what's important here because you're a strong-willed, competent, proactive human, and I know that you wouldn't do this naturally. So just so you know, this mistake that you made, this is not acceptable. Second time you make a mistake, that's your fault. Are we on what's going on here? Are we on the same page? Convince me that you still want this job. Third time you're fired. Like this whole performance improvement program, meet with you every week, try to coach you on, what are we doing? These are grown-ass humans that are being paid to do a job, pay them to do the job, get out of their way. And if they don't run farther and faster than you, and they don't run through walls, fire them. But the prerequisite is hiring peak performers. And that's the other thing that people don't do. People refuse to hire peak performers because they're afraid of them. And they don't like what it costs. That's the other piece and where this conversation gets really uncomfortable. If you want a peak performer, winners want to win. You want to win, winners want to win. And how do you let winners win? Well,
pay them.
Money's how we keep score. Now, here's what's really interesting is it can't not work in your favor when you understand math and you understand specifically the Pareto distribution. The Pareto distribution is the most important mathematical principle in life and in business. And a room full of financial advisors understand it because 20% of your investments yield 80% of your returns, usually more, right? And that's what the Pareto distribution is. It's the 80-20 rule. It's a minority of your inputs result in the majority of your outputs. But it's true, not just in the investing world, it's true in every organic ecosystem. So 20% of the criminals commit 80% of the crimes, and 20% of your customers are worth 80% of your revenue, but 20% of the employees do 80% of the work. And what people don't realize is it's fractal. It's fractal. And I didn't know what that word means. Somebody had to explain it to me. But if you're in a 1,000-person organization, according to the 80-20 rule, 200 people do 80% of the work. And you think like, yeah, I know, I've seen that. Like we've all either from the inside or the outside seen a 1,000-person organization, and you know 200 people are doing 80% of the work. And the rest of the people they're the mortar to the bricks. But zoom in on those 200. Of those 200, 40 are doing 80% of their work. Zoom in on the 40. Of the 48 are doing 80% of their work, which means on a 1,000-person organization, one person is doing about 25% of the total organization's work, which is mind-bending.
Yeah.
And most organizations, and I mean 99% of them, are trying to hire the average. They're working towards, think of the words we use, minimums, quotas, policies, procedures. Those are words for people that we want to keep at the average. The peak performers are being repelled. You can index towards the peak performer. You can create your entire pyramid off of the stuff that most people only have at the top. So when I tell people to pay more, they say things like, oh God, dude, you don't understand my model, my margins, my this, my that, and I want to strangle them. And I'm like, you don't understand math. If you pay 10% more than the high water mark, which is more than anybody else is willing to pay, you don't get 10% more return or 50% more return or 100% more return. You get 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the return. It can't not work in your favor. When I sold Solutions 8, I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I sold it in October 2022 for an 8-figure sum to a SoftBank-backed MarTech company. When I sold it, I had $100 million in ad spend under management. I had 80 employees, and one human managed 40% of my revenue. His name was John Moran. He's the greatest Google Ads manager alive. And most people look at that and say, oh no, existential crisis on a spreadsheet, mitigate the risk. And what do? They try to enforce minimums. But all that means is you don't get to take advantage of John Moran, who's a literal genius and the greatest Google Ads manager alive. Instead, I shackle him with golden handcuffs, give him 10% of the company, and then I breeze out and ride off into the sunset with 90% of an 8-figure exit. Find peak performers, pay them what they're worth. And you know the thing about John, I never had to manage John, just had to get out of his way. My only job was removing barriers and roadblocks, of which there are many. And the craziest thing, I was so terrified. I'm like, God, this guy manages 40% of my revenue. He could walk away tomorrow, steal all my clients, make a multi-7-figure income working part-time. Do you want to know what John did after we sold Solutions 8? Guess.
Did he stay?
He went and he got another job.
Okay. I'm like, what's the opposite of what I think he would do?
He went and he got another, and I asked him, I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're famous in the Google Ads space. You can't not run into him. If you look at Reddit, like who the best Google Ads manager in the world is, John Moran. People are coming at him nonstop asking him to run their ads. And he's like, he's a genius. He's an artist. He's a scientist. He's an inventor. He wants to be in his lab tinkering with the toys. He doesn't want to have to worry about operations and HR and management and invoicing and customers. And when he does freelance, he always undersells himself. He's the Brackman's different brain. He needs the entrepreneur to create the sandbox so he can create the sandcastles. And those people, forgive me for saying this, Virginia, they're so accessible because the whole world wants the other type of employee. They want the minimums and the quotas. And you have the opportunity to hire the greatest humans alive, and they will blow your mind. And Virginia, I do it over and over and over and over and over again. I own AEO.co. I'm the world authority in answer engine optimization. I have a 6-person team that have done nothing but study how LLMs source their citations. I do nothing. I have a young man, his name's Julian. He's out of Colombia. He's really passionate about this. He manages the team. He wrote the book. He manages the community. And I get to show up and act like the hero and just read his research and tell everybody that I'm the expert. I own techstack.com, same story. I own ParetoTalent.com, same story. I own Architect, same story. I own Driven Mastermind, same story. I just find, I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I've never run a Google ad campaign myself end-to-end in my life. I wouldn't know how to. I'm too stupid. I had the highest performing real estate investment campaign in the United States for 7 years before I knew anything about real estate investing or lead generation. I owned, this is the company I sold this month, I owned the largest English-speaking Montessori community on the planet. I'm not a trained Montessorian. I don't own a Montessori school. I have a 10th grade education. All I do is find people smarter than me and say, you go do that. And then the miracle of humanity is that a smart, competent person will do that, and not just do it. They'll do it better and faster and easier and more effective than you'll ever do it. But, and this could be the second half of the conversation if I'm not bulldozing you, you have to get out of their way. Entrepreneurs love to tinker. We love to show up and be like, oh, Virginia, great job. But you know what? Change the square to a circle and change red to blue. And why don't you turn this 30 degrees to the right? And it's so obscene. It's disgusting. It's filthy. Because you take this competent, brilliant human who's doing something better than you'll ever do it, and you think that you can improve upon it. And even if you can, it doesn't matter, because the second worst thing that can happen is that project fails. Because now that human goes, that wasn't me. Virginia told me. Change the square to circle, change red to blue, move it 30 degrees to the right. The first worst thing that can happen is the project succeeds. Because they've taken their hands off the wheel. It's not theirs. They feel no sense of ownership. Authorship creates ownership. The only thing as an entrepreneur you should ever critique is that which is objectively true. Hey, just so you know, the FCC guidelines say we have to do it this way, which incidentally is a failure in management, because they should have that as one of the inputs on the front end. But if it's not objectively false, leave it alone. Let them run with it. I have businesses with logos and names and URLs I don't like. None of my business. It wasn't a part of the input, so it's not a part of the output. Anyway, sorry, I soapbox a lot.
Quick pause here, because you host a podcast for your business, so this matters. Most podcast hosts judge their success by downloads or whether someone hires them directly from their show. But that's not how podcasting actually works. Your show is building authority, warming leads, improving visibility, and creating opportunities long before a sales conversation happens. The problem is, most business owners don't track any of that. So they get frustrated and assume the podcast isn't working because they haven't gotten a client directly from an episode. I created the podcast ROI Metrics Tracker to fix that. It's a free tool that helps you track 50 plus non-traditional metrics so that you can finally see the real return your podcasting is doing for your business. You can grab it right now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker. All right, back to the episode. No, I like it. So in there, we got lots of lessons. I'm going to have to unpack those in the show notes. But I heard you mention just one line about foreign talent. And I get a lot of pushback on that because my team is all over the world as well. But I'm not going to say I follow your principles perfectly because I haven't read your book, but I get a lot of value out of amazing people that may not live in the US. They speak English. They use Slack proficiently. They are geniuses. They're better at their job than I could be. And they're wonderful. And, the couple times a year that we jump on a Zoom call, it is so cool to get to see who this amazing person is who's been sending me graphics and reels and all of our customer products that we provide. So share a little bit about why you've chosen international talent and why we should be a little more open to that.
Yeah, I'm going to get canceled. Well, at least here's the thing. I'm going to do my best to get canceled.
Okay.
I'm going to offer a preface if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm a welfare baby. I was raised by a blind single mother in Albuquerque, New Mexico, living off of Social Security disability. And people hear that like, oh, Kasim, poor you. And really what they don't understand is I'm actually a trust fund baby if you really think about it. Because I had a trust that paid for my lodging, my education, my food, my clothing. My trust just happened to say United States Social Security Office. Like me and my brother were cared for by a country that has the social safety net that accounts for that eventuality. So my blind mom raised 2 children in what you would consider from, an anthropological scale in relative comfort. Like the poverty line is an interesting conversation because, people in poverty in the U.S. live better than the royalty lived in the late 1800s. So I'm saying that to say, I love this country. I'm so grateful to have been born here. I was born on the right side of an arbitrary line. My father's Pakistani, my mom's white. So I could have been born over there and just been playing Slumdog Millionaire my whole life. I'm born in a country and we won, right? The U.S. has done the thing that countries are supposed to do, and we've built and established an economic ecosystem where, and this is where I'm going to get in trouble, people don't have to work. That's a fact. That is a 100% irrefutable, I don't care where you land on the political spectrum, it's a fact. People don't have to work. Should they? Yes. But they don't need to if they don't want to. And it creates an environment where the labor pool available and accessible to us has been artificially tweaked. Here's the thing. It's not that we don't create peak performers in this country. Obviously we do. They don't want to work for you. Mm-mm. They're going to go work for Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, or some pre-IPO company that's going to make them a millionaire, or they're going to go be entrepreneurs because we've made it easier in this country to be an entrepreneur than any other country on the planet, which means you're left with the leftovers. I've got a cousin like this. I love him to death. He's like a brother to me. We were raised together. Phenomenal husband, phenomenal dad, phenomenal friend, phenomenal pool player, phenomenal DJ. I'll list 12 things, Virginia, before I get to what he does for a living. And let me tell you, he clocks in, clocks out, and he makes $120,000 a year as a supervisor at a call center, which I could train a monkey to do.
Yeah.
Our labor pool here is inadequate. And it's the reason everybody's like, oh, it's so hard to find good help. No, it's not, actually. Here's the flip side of the coin. You're fishing in the wrong damn pond. You don't have access to peak performers here. Even if you could afford to pay what a peak performer can make in the United States, you don't have the high rise and the $12 croissants and the big beautiful logo and the thing that they could put on LinkedIn that would make them feel like a brag. But if you go to all of Latin America, North Africa, Eastern Europe, all of Asia, you are aspirational to those people the way that Google is aspirational to kids here. Now, people who go, oh no, I tried outsourcing and it didn't work. Here's what I guarantee 100 times out of 100. You found some kid in Bangladesh on Freelancer and you asked him to make 1,000 cold calls a day. And surprise, surprise, 2 weeks in, he got burned out. Because what human on the planet could possibly do that job? You also tried to pay him the least and get the most because people hire like people are commodities. Here's what you do. You offer more money than people could expect to make domestically by many multiples. So when I had my Google Ads agency, I had 30 people working for me in India. Here's what's interesting about India. If you look at the media buying world, everybody complains about the Indian employees. They're horrible. They're horrible, the Indian employees, according to the media buying world. It's like, I can't trust that I'm actually even their full-time job. They tend to have multiple jobs, and we catch them in multiple different accounts if we're screenshotting desktops. And they're always late to things, and they lie about what they know and what they don't know. But then I dig into what they're doing, and the average media buyer in India is getting paid $500 USD a month, or they were when I had my agency, and these guys are trying to pay $490. I went to India and I started my media buyers at $1,500. 3 times. Imagine making 3 times what your peers made. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. I got the best people in the world. They were bloodthirsty, deadly assassins. They were killers. Virginia, they were so good. One young man who worked for me, I won't say his name because I'm about to air out his dirty laundry. I aligned our interests. So I incentivized them to manage more ad spend, and the more ad spend they managed, the more he got paid. This kid ends up making $9,000 a month. $9,000 USD a month. Great salary for anybody over here. Yeah. In India, he is a freaking baller.
Yeah.
He buys his parents the first home the family has ever had. He gets himself married, which is super expensive endeavor over there, buys himself a motorcycle. And everybody's like, you're paying an Indian media buyer $9,000 a month, where most people are paying $500. And it's like, yeah. And by the way, he manages 15 clients, one of whom is my biggest client, a publicly traded pet supplement company who pays me $54,000 a month. The maths. It's the Pareto distribution. There's no amount of money I could pay that kid that's not worth it. So these people, it's hubris to think that the rest of the world doesn't produce extraordinary talent. But you have to be a little accessible to some cultural idiosyncrasies. Are South Asians late to everything? Yes. Don't know why. It's in their blood. If a South Asian, my father's Pakistani, I can tell you this as a fact. We call it brown people time. If a South Asian tells you Friday at noon, it's Monday at 2. And it just is what it is. But they're also the most adept problem solvers you've ever encountered in your life. Filipinos, famously conflict averse. Hate conflict with everything inside of them. Want to do everything they can to get out of conflict. And is that frustrating? Sure, it can be. Or you make a little bit of an adjustment. You learn to sandwich constructive criticism in between compliments. And you have some of the most creative, empathic, kind, generous, gracious humans I've ever worked with. Latin Americans do not prioritize work over life. God bless them. But if you allow them the free time that they need in order to be very social, because it's a very social, all of it, and I know it's weird to stereotype people, but everything south of Texas, man, it's the most social cultures I've ever seen. You know, I don't care where you go, Argentina, Colombia, Bolivia, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, like they live life. And if you can build a work environment where that's where they get to go to their daughter's ballet practice and they get to take, you know, you don't have to make them screenshot desktops and clock in and out, you end up having an amazingly adept workforce that's phenomenally English proficient and, to be frank, easier to work with because they're on our time zone and they're all Christian countries, which means you're not trying to conjugate weird holidays. Not weird, idiosyncratic. You know what I mean? So no, the entire rest of the international world is so much, employers here have never experienced gratitude ever in their life. I'll show you. Actually, it's so funny. I just got this email yesterday. Can I be horribly arrogant again?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to read an email to you from a young woman. I got this yesterday. This came in October 9th, the time of our recording, at 4:08 p.m. She said, I just read your post and I'm crying. I'm quite overwhelmed. This is really kind of you. I've received 23 messages from people who are interested in hiring me because of your post. Thank you so much for going above and beyond and helping me. Yes, I'll weigh the options carefully. Thank you, Kasim. You're such a blessing. My life truly changed when I met you 4 years ago. Now it keeps getting better, and I'm excited for what's ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to help me find a job. I want to share this photo of my little family with you. It's a testament of how you value people and how you've helped me thrive professionally and personally. I really appreciate you, Kasim. More blessings and happiness to you and your family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is a young woman that worked for me. She worked for me for 3 years. I sold the business. The business that I sold, she just got laid off from. I helped her find another job. There's anthropological implications to taking people in international markets and paying them more than they'll make domestically. I don't deserve the how profuse those thanks are, but good golly, does it make me feel good. And you don't hear thank you as an employer here. What I hear when I tried to employ here, and I tried for a long, long time, I remember this young man who worked for me, Oren. He was so smart, so capable, so brilliant, and God, was he a prick. First words out of his mouth when I hire him, what's my title? And then they want to know about PTO right away. And then within 2 weeks of working for me, he informed me, didn't ask me, that him and some friends were going to Paris. Like, that's what we have to live with here. Or you can go to the rest of the world, you can change somebody's life, and you can get the best employee that you're ever going to have.
I think here, at least my experience in corporate, is that we have to be a little bit aggressive up to like maintain respect from management. Like it's a weird dynamic. And I think that really reflects like what you said, like he informed you that they were going, you know, it's like rather than asking, because we're used to being told no here in the US, like by your employer, like you can't do that. You only get this much time off. You must clock in at this time. You know, you have to stay late. You know, so there's a lot of dynamic, I think, ingrained in the American work culture that makes us feel defensive automatically. And the nice part is that it seems like these other places in the world don't have that.
Well, they're abused. You should hear the horror stories. You know, like people in India, especially employers withholding pay for months. not allowing PTO at all. Like they're very, very, very poorly treated. So if you bring somebody on, if you treat them like a human, let them work from home on a semi-flexible schedule, and let them do meaningful work or show them where their meaning is in their work, like it's life-changing for them and for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the foreign hire conversation for a little while did get a bad rap because it was like, hire these people from the Philippines for $5 a day and they'll do all of this. It was just like, it felt dirty.
Icky.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
Like that, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Like $5 a day, really? Like,
yeah.
Like, have you looked at their cost of living? Like, have you done any research around this? And that was common, I want to say, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. I don't know if it still
common.
is.
I mean, people are still predatory. They try to, that's why I think it's so silly that people, that going back to the commodity conversation, the way to trade commodities, like if you have silver, I have a silver coin in my hand. The way to trade any commodity, silver, corn, beans, whatever, is to get the most for the least. Pay the least, get the most. So and because we're taught that, and because the conversation about humans is a conversation of commodity just for shorthand purposes. And you know that because the way people talk about hiring, I need to get a graphic designer. I'm looking for a neurosurgeon. Those are commodities. A graphic designer and a neurosurgeon are commodities in the way that we speak about them. But people are not easily interchangeable, because if you've got a neurosurgeon and I've got a neurosurgeon and we swap, we probably both die, right? Without the context that person has, or the background, or the specificity, or whatever. And so I think that when you start looking at people as miracles and you're willing to pay multiples of what they'll get domestically, I've had people accuse me of ruining markets multiple times, especially in the media buying world. I had somebody like kind of rip me. He's like, dude, what are you doing? You're paying people so much, it's ruining it for the rest of us. And I'm like, good. You know what I mean? Like, good. Oh God, I'm giving the poor people in this third world country whose economy is being artificially suppressed by the US petrodollar a little bit of a leg up. So sorry.
Yeah.
So I absolutely agree with you. I think people can get pernicious and predatory, but then I think a lot of people, I have a lot of friends. I own a staffing agency. I see this all the time. I have 100 employees in international markets, and all my clients love their people and treat them well. And it's nonstop. One of the biggest problems we have is how to get gifts to these different countries because the import tax are so high.
Yeah, that is a problem.
My clients want to send, they're like, I want to buy them a computer. I want to send them on their birthday, or we want to give them Christmas gifts. And gosh, what a good problem to have. So
I love that. Well, thank you for just giving us some insight. I think anybody listening is probably like, oh my gosh, I'm dying to hear and see what is in this book. So thank you. I want to switch gears a little bit though and talk about your YouTube channel, because that is the other piece that entrepreneurs are trying to do, is like some form of content media. I live in the podcast space, of course, but the podcast world has intertwined recently with the YouTube and video world. So we got to kind of be open, and the video podcasting space is facing like a big boom right now. So I'd love for you to share, just someone listening can already tell. I mean, you say you're like the dumbest person, but I really seriously don't believe you. Like, just you are very
whatever
smart.
Specific level of analysis we're talking about, right? If you picked up any business that I own and asked me any question, my favorite answer is I don't know. So it's Kasim, how do we do this? I don't know.
Because
Who
you
does
hired smart people to surround, which I think there's like some
follow-up.
Yeah, there's some I don't know, past president or something that said.
No, it was Henry Ford.
Oh, was it Henry
I don't
Ford?
know the answer to any of your questions, but I know who to call and find out.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So talk to me a little bit about like when you started your channel, why you started your channel, that desire to create content around the concepts that you are an expert on, because you're the face of your channel. So talk to us about that and what you think a financial professional should be looking at as they get started.
I had a YouTube channel for Solutions 8, which was my Google Ads agency, that I sold when I sold the agency. And it was the reason the agency grew. Like, I made an 8-figure exit on the back of a YouTube channel with 30,000 subscribers, which adjusted for margin of error is 0 subscribers, right? Like, that's effectively nothing in the world of YouTube. I think YouTube is, first of all, I think content creation is the most important thing any entrepreneur can do for themselves. You have to establish a level of authority. You have to. If you don't, you are superfluous. You are excess. You are extra. You are waste. There's no reason for you to exist in today's environment. And you know that because of the zero-click reality that is AI. People are asking, 65% of all searches results in zero-click. And that's actually an inadequate data point because most people aren't even searching anymore. They're going to ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, etc. And they're asking questions. And those questions yield answers. And those answers come from where? From experts, from authorities. So if you're a financial advisor and you are not creating content, you are not even allowing yourself the opportunity of existing within that intellectual framework. You don't exist. So I'm not being unkind. I'm being technical. You do not exist unless you're willing to establish yourself as an authority. And then you say, okay, Kasim, I believe you. How do I establish myself as authority? Well, it's not easy, but it's accessible. It's not hard, it's tedious. You know, when I say it's not easy, it's not that it's inaccessible. You're already an expert. You already know all this amazing stuff. You just need to document it and publish it. And I saw YouTube, we tried to create content on every channel, and YouTube it's the most effective channel because it's the only channel that it starts middle of the funnel. Here's why that's relevant. Top of the funnel is really cheap traffic. So this is, interruption marketing via Meta, organic or paid. So nobody jumps onto Meta thinking, oh, I hope a financial advisor says something that I can read today, right? You're there to stalk ex-spouses or, look at cat pictures or just be entertained. And so everything in that type of network is top of funnel, which means it's interrupter and I have to attract your attention and then nurture you. And that nurture, people call it organic. They think it's free. It's not free. It takes so much time, effort, energy, and sometimes money to get them from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. That's the top of the funnel. The bottom of the funnel are things like Google ads or Reddit ads or cold calling. It's like, I'm gonna get you now. I'm gonna try to find you at the inflection point where you're ready to buy. And that's very effective, but it's also very, 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 very expensive. Extraordinarily expensive. And I know that because I spent $100 million of other people's money for years. The middle of the funnel is perfect. It's the best place you can possibly be. They're problem aware, generally solution aware. Their wallet is almost out, but not so much so that the traffic is expensive. And if you're willing to produce a little bit of content, you get to put yourself in front of them. They've seen your face. They've heard your voice, which are huge. People don't understand the neuroassociative conditioning that takes place in that type of environment where you show up and to this one person, you're a little famous. And you've been able to provide real value. It's not an ad. It's content. You provide real value. Now, it takes time. At Solutions 8, it took 7 months. We found out it took 7 months between the time somebody watched our first video and the time that they became a customer. Most people aren't willing to wait that long. But if you are, you get an 8-figure exit. At least, right? My exit was low. I'm the poorest rich person. You know what I mean? That's actually a tiny exit in the world of M&A, and I'm super happy about it. And I think financial advisors, especially if they're willing to pick a niche, which I know nobody wants to hear because it's the opportunity cost, but if they're willing to pick a niche, there's no shortage of questions. There's no shortage of people that want to talk to you. And if you don't know what your niche is, it's you. If you're a disabled veteran and a financial advisor, congratulations. You're a financial advisor for disabled veterans. If you're a divorced mother of 4 children, congratulations. You're a financial advisor for divorcees with children. If you're an African-American bisexual female, there's no shortage of dynamics that you can apply to something that allows you to understand people from an empathic perspective that people outside of that circle and that bubble can't understand. And for better or for worse, we've chosen to characterize ourselves in those terms. So use that to your advantage. Choose your very specific niche. It could be industry specific. If your dad owned a painting company, you could be a financial advisor to the trades. Figure out what it is that you can talk about, you're passionate about, and most importantly, who you love. Who do you love? Who do you love? Help those people. Pick a niche, create content, provide value, and then wait. But you have to be consistent. If you're not being consistent, you know what I mean? The algorithm won't even begin to recommend you. You'll never see the traction. So what that really means, it used to be 90 days. We used to tell people, shoot one video every business day for 90 days and you'll start getting recommended. Now it's more like 180. Which again, when people hear, they're like, I can see them
Check
glazing.
out,
They're like, Kasim, what does it take to be successful on YouTube? I'm like, one video a day every day for 180 days. And they're like, what else could it take to be, you know what I mean? It's like being fit. Everybody likes, even if they don't want to go, everybody likes the montage of the gym in their mind. You get real motivated. You put on Eye of the Tiger. You think you're Rocky, run up the stairs, fist pumping in the air. What they don't like, though, is nutrition. which is, it's 80% of the job. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to be fit, it's 80% nutrition. If you're going to establish authority, it's 80% consistency. And you know that because you jump onto YouTube and you ask a question about financial advice, and then you get some dipshit that you disagree with and you know isn't telling the truth or just doesn't know what they're talking about. And you're like, I'm so much smarter than that person. Well, they're more consistent than you. So they earned that traffic and you did not.
Yeah.
So just go out there and be consistent.
Yeah. I really appreciate that advice. The 180 a video every day, that is shocking. But I'm really thankful that you shared that, because I think so many people go, okay, well, I'll start, like in the podcast space, I'll start a weekly show. In a year, if I haven't gotten a client from my show, then it's not worth it. Well, that's 52 videos or 52 recordings, right? Yeah. You should, especially if you've tweaked your messaging and you have a viable product and things like that. Yes, you should be having conversations and referencing your podcast and getting some conversations from your podcast, from social media, from posting about your podcast within that year. However, that's not 180 videos. That's not 180 recordings. And so a lot of times I'm talking about committing to something for 18 months because I'm referencing a weekly show. That still wouldn't give you the 180. But either way, we're talking about this long-term commitment to showing up over and over and over with value over and over and over, and then reaping the rewards. And people are so fast to say like, oh, it didn't work, or, oh, I tried that. Kind of like the hiring conversation where you're having, oh, I've hired international talent before. It didn't work for me, or whatever. So I think that's just testimony to needing to show up consistently in any space, right? Whether it's the business space, whether it's the content space, whether you're talking about hiring, in any of these areas. So did you have any tools or anything that helped you grow your YouTube channel, be able to post consistently? I'm imagining that you hired a team.
I was just going to say, yeah. I don't know, because there was actually the young gal I just told you about was the gal that managed my YouTube channel. So she had a bunch of that stuff, but I don't know what they were. I just shot the videos and I passed them off.
Okay. So you were the epitome of ideal client from someone like me. Because if I told you, hey, I need these videos, here are your topics, here's this, here's our angle, here's whatever, and then you just show up and record the videos and send them to me, that's like my dream.
That's all I do. Yeah.
So I love that. As that talent on screen, how did you manage your schedule? How did you make sure that you could get those videos done while balancing everything else that's on your plate? Because that's the piece that I find challenging for a lot of business owners, right? So they'll reach out to me saying, hey, I want to do this thing, whether it's a channel or podcast, whatever it is. Okay, we have a plan. We've mapped out everything. We have messaging. We have this, that. I need these videos recorded. And then comes the scheduling conflicts.
So I'll overstep my bounds here because I'm not a professional and you are, but I'll tell you what I do, and if it's helpful for your clients, great. You can do a week's worth of content in an hour. So 1 hour a week is 60 minutes of recording. And if you can touch 5 topics in 60 minutes, which is 10 minutes per topic plus some time for transition, then you get a 10-minute video every day, which is what YouTube wants. This comes from Evan Carmichael, by the way, who's one of the world authorities in YouTube and a buddy of mine. Evan says you need a 10-minute video or longer. You need a 70% retention at the 60-second mark, which means your title and what you say actually have to match. Your call to action needs to be watch another video, not to leave YouTube, because YouTube wants retention. You need to post every day for 180 days, and your title and your thumbnail are more important than the content of your video. Those are the 5 factors that help you conquer YouTube. If you shoot 1 hour-long podcast, let's say you jump on a riverside or whatever, shoot an hour-long podcast, but you touch 5 topics in an hour, try to transition to those topics every about 10 minutes, and it can be interview style, or it can be solo. It's up to you, whatever your comfort zone is. Then an adept editor can take that, and they can do a bunch of things. That 1 hour conversation can probably turn into 2 podcast episodes, at least 1. So you strip the audio, the videos get chopped up, and now you have 5 videos for your week. And then you can do like shorts and reels and carousels and infographics and a whole bunch of repurposing opportunity. So all you need to create content is an hour a week. You just have to be disciplined with that hour. And most people are not,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. It backs up a lot of what I teach. And so I appreciate that. But I think the folks listening will really appreciate that because you broke it down and it's like, it really is that simple. I just need to commit to that hour. So that's encouraging in a roundabout way that, hey, it only takes an hour a week. Will you share with us where to find you, where to follow you, your book, all of that good stuff? Where do we get the goods?
Yeah, go to kasim.me, Kasim.me, and you can have my book for free. You can join my free forever community for entrepreneurs who want freedom. I do a lot for free, and that's where all my social links are there, my YouTube channel's there, all that fun stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virginia. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Podcasting for Financial Professionals. Before you go, make sure you're actually measuring what your podcast is producing. Not by vibes, not by download spikes, but by the actual outcomes it's creating. Authority, visibility, and leads for your business. Your podcast is doing more than you think. You just need a way to see it. That's why I created the Podcast ROI Metrics Tracker, a free tool that helps you track the real return your podcasting for business is creating. From authority and visibility to leads and opportunities across many categories. Download it right now at podcastabundance.com/ROI-tracker.